Hi boys and girls, Miss Graf here, and welcome to my most favorite reading spot in the whole world. Today I'm going to be reading chapter 10 called An Anxious Night. I hope you enjoy it. At first, Ralph's scheme worked. Keith delivered the promised bacon, toast, and jelly. The mice ate sparingly and laid aside the leftovers against the day Keith must leave the hotel. Ralph's mother continued to worry about tipping room service. "I want to do the right thing," she insisted. "There must be some way we could manage a tip." The mice dared not leave the nest to search for small coins that might have rolled under beds and dressers. It was late in the afternoon when Ralph heard Keith and his parents returning to their rooms. Very quietly, so that his toenails did not make scrabbling sounds in the woodwork, he slipped into the knothole and peeped out in time to see Keith flop down on the bed. "Do I have to go down to the dining room for dinner?" Keith asked his mother and father. "I'm not hungry." Oh, thought Ralph, there goes dinner. "I told you not to eat the whole bag of peanuts so close to dinner time," said his father. "I didn't eat all of it," said Keith. "That's good," thought Ralph. "At least there would be peanuts for dinner." "You'll feel better after you get washed up for dinner," said Mrs. Gridley. "Hurry along now." When his parents had gone into room 216, Ralph noticed that Keith seemed to drag himself off the bed. He walked to the wash basin, turned on the cold water, moistened his fingers, and wiped them over his face. Then he turned off the water and gave the middle of his face a swipe with a towel, which he returned to the towel rack in such a way that it immediately fell to the floor. Keith did not pick it up, but there was nothing unusual about this. Boys rarely picked up towels. What was unusual was that Keith returned to the bed where he sat down and stared at the wall. He did not play with his cars, nor did he eat the rest of his peanuts. He just sat there. Ralph stuck his head out of the knothole. "Anything wrong?" he asked. "Oh, hi," answered Keith listlessly. "I feel sort of awful." "Say, that's too bad." Ralph ventured a little farther out of the knothole. "I know what you mean. Thinking about the motorcycle makes me feel awful too." "It's not that kind of awful," said Keith. "I feel awful in a different way, sort of in my insides." "Think you'll make it to dinner?" asked Ralph. "Oh, I guess so." There was no enthusiasm in Keith's voice. "Anything I can bring you?" "Whatever is handy," said Ralph, who hesitated to place an order when he could see that Keith did not feel like going to dinner at all. "We are sort of depending on you. The housekeeper found all those sheets I had to chew through to get out of the hamper, and I understand she got pretty excited about mice. We are lying low until the whole thing blows over." A smile flickered across Keith's face. "Don't worry, I won't let you down. I saved you some peanuts. I thought they might come in handy for storing." "Gee, thanks," said Ralph. Keith got slowly off the bed and poked the peanuts, one by one, through the knothole. When he had finished, Ralph popped out again and said, "Thanks a lot." Keith smiled feebly and flopped down on the bed once more. Ralph went to work moving the peanuts away from the knothole to make room for whatever dinner Keith had brought. He felt it would be fun to be surprised by the menu this time. It was something of a shock to find that dinner, which was stuffed through the knothole much earlier than Ralph expected, consisted of a couple of broken soda crackers. Ralph poked his head out to see if more was coming. But Keith was getting into his pajamas. "Aren't you going to bed early?" asked Ralph, realizing he had not heard Keith's parents come in. "I felt so awful. I couldn't eat, so they told me I had better come up and go to bed." Keith tossed his shirt on the floor of the bed and pulled on his pajama top. When his head emerged, he said, "I'm sorry about your dinner. It was the best that I could do. All I had was a little soup. That's all right, Ralph was beginning to get concerned. If the boy could not eat, neither could the mice. Keith fell into bed, and Ralph ran off to report the news to his relatives. What a shame, said Ralph's mother. The poor boy. Oh dear, whatever shall we do? Cried Aunt Dorothy. Our very lives depend on him. The little cousins huddled together, big-eyed and frightened. Yes, what about us? Asked Uncle Lester. How are we going to manage if he doesn't bring us our meals? It isn't safe for us to go out pilfering when the housekeeper has declared war on mice. I knew it was a mistake to depend on people, said Aunt Sissy. We'll manage somehow. We always have. Ralph's mother was trying to be brave, but Ralph could see how worried she was. After all, he did bring us a supply of peanuts. We should be grateful for that. He didn't bring many peanuts. Uncle Lester did not sound the least bit grateful. The greedy fellow is probably ill from stuffing himself with nuts. He should have saved for us. Serves him right. Now, Lester, fussed Ralph's mother. The boy had a right to eat his own peanuts, but I do wish he hadn't been so hungry. Ralph returned to the knothole. Keith was lying in bed with his sports car in one hand. How do you feel now? Asked Ralph. Awful, answered Keith. Before Ralph could reply, footsteps in the hall warned him that Keith's parents were coming. He drew back inside the knothole where he could observe without being seen. Mrs. Gridley paused by her son's bed and laid her hand on his forehead. He does feel a little warm, she remarked. He'll probably be all right in the morning, said Mr. Gridley. And chapter 10 will continue. Have a great day, boys and girls.